Hey guys, and welcome to another installment of the PH Journals podcast. This week is kind of a little different. As you guys can tell, I'm sure from my voice, and for those of you that are watching this on YouTube, I'm buzzing. I really am buzzing. It's been a week that it would be very, very hard for me to forget quickly. I joined a very good friend of mine down in the outskirts of Cradock, and I'm still kind of lost for words trying to grasp on what the experience actually was. But yeah, this week's episode is all about pretty much I've realized going back on a couple of my episodes, I've never really spoken about bow hunting. And although it's been something that's relatively new, it's only really crept in since COVID into my itinerary, I've never really done a podcast on it. And I thought tonight, after the experience I've just had, why not? Why not sit down and tell everybody what a wonderful experience I had, firstly. Secondly, everything you need to know about bow hunting on the Dark Continent. So, before we get into it, just, of course, a huge shout out to everyone that's been involved over the past couple of years. Thank you to each and every single one of you back home that has showed your love and support for my channel. So if there is one thing I could request from you guys is, please, on whatever platform you're watching this on, whether it be YouTube or listening to it on any one of the major podcasting platforms, my appreciation goes out to you if you just interact with the episode a little bit. So subscribe to my channel, interact a little bit, like, share, whatever you may do. Every sort of interaction or anything like that benefits us in the algorithm. And of course, that leads to a lot of greater things for future. And talking about future, if you guys are listening to this in South Africa, I'll be heading around. Sorry, I got a little bit of hay fever at the moment from tonight's hunt. But I'll be heading down to Huntex on the 26th. I'm really looking forward to this one. I've been very, very fortunate to be invited out there and just come and see some of the really cool exhibitors. So I'm really excited about that. And then, just a lot's been going on. We've been in and out planning on a lot of cool content coming forward, but also a lot of cool guests that are going to be highlighted on the podcast pretty soon. So I'm really excited about that one. So let's get into it. Guys, bow hunting for me, I started my career as a professional hunter back in 2009, and bow hunting for me has been met with many, many challenges, right? My first experience of a bow hunter was a gentleman I've looked up to since the very first day I met him. And we kind of connected on a personal level. I built a relationship with him, his Uncle Will Nelson. From America. He's an incredible bow hunter. Probably one of the best I've really been interacted with. And I was very, very fortunate in 2021 to be introduced to Tom Miranda, which was a highlight of my career. Tom is an exceptional gentleman and an exceptional hunter. So I've been influenced throughout my career as a professional hunter by these individuals coming through. But my real first bow hunt with a client was David Orgard. And Dave was an incredible shot. We did a lot of hunting out of the blinds. But that was my introduction into PHing bow hunters. A very, very unique way on how to do things, which I thought was pretty cool. But in essence, I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say it wasn't frustrating. It was extremely frustrating, purely based on the fact that you are limited. So when a client comes out for 10 days on a bow hunt, you are very, very limited on what he can take. You obviously want to take the first couple of opportunities. Hence why I say to guys coming out on safari with a bow, is always be open to the possibilities of utilizing a rifle. I know there's this kind of cult feel about the whole hunting industry between the two different disciplines. However, I do feel that, you know, if you're coming out and experiencing South Africa for what it is, and especially on your very first safari, be open, be mentally prepared to be able to take out the rifle, because your opportunities are very few and far between as far as hunting species is concerned, especially if you go into established game farms. When you go to these established game farms, there's been a lot of hunting done on the property, and with that being said, the animals get wiser. So yeah, what are the criterias though of coming out for a bow, right? So I've been asked numerous amounts of times on social media, in person at trade shows or whatever it may be, what, you know, they're looking to come out for bow hunting. What is the minimum criteria? So if anything big game, I would not look anything under 60 pounds. If you're looking to hunt sable, if you're looking to hunt any one of the bigger game species, 60 pounds and above is probably one of your best. When you get into dangerous game territory, anything from 75 onwards is a really, really good gauge for what you guys want to do. The reason for that is that a lot of the bigger gamed animals sit with a hard and a congested rib frame. So what I mean by that is that our bone density in a lot of our animals on the anatomy side of things is a lot stronger than what you are currently used to up north. However, the elk can kind of fit in to a lot of the eland and the kudu structures, so too with the moose. However, when you're hunting a lot of the softer game animals, our bone density structures, are a lot more dense. So you're needing that little bit of kick to get through those rib cages, break bone, break shoulders, whatever you need to do to bring the animal down. On that point, understanding that practicing and shot placement is probably going to be one of your more key aspects. It's important because shot placement can be the difference in a very, very successful safari or an unsuccessful safari. Anything placed a little bit behind the golden area, the gearbox as we call it, you're going to be looking to track animals. So understand that. Head along to the gun shops. Go and pick up your African targets, warthog, impala, blazebuck, whatever it may be, the common stuff, kudu. The animals, specifically the animals you're going to be chasing, and put them up on a big sheet of paper, put them on your butt, and just start target practicing. Because if you can dial into, and it doesn't have to be, everyone talks about the 2 to 3 inch grouping set. It doesn't have to be that. Our animals' gearbox or area where you're hunting out of is pretty big. And I know I shouldn't be saying this, but it is. There is a bit of room for error. So head along and just make sure that you've got a dinner plate circumference on a lot of the bigger species. On the smaller stuff, it becomes a little bit tricky and more finicky. With that being said, something I've learned over the past couple of years, and this might open myself up for a little bit of controversy and a little bit of negative feedback. However, it's worked for me on specific bow instances. For instance, if we talk about the blue wildebeest, people know that any wildebeest species is a mad horse, right? They tough as nails, and once they get adrenaline pumped into them, it's almost like they become a stronger and more robust animal. I've just written an article about this in the Wilton Yach, which I would share with you guys from next week onwards. But with that being said, my tactic going into hunting a blue wildebeest would be purely to go and try and do as much damage to that animal as I possibly can, or not give it the opportunity to run away. And what do I mean by this is when everyone says you aim for the V behind the shoulder. Now that V behind the shoulder holds a lot of crucial organs just behind it, and that is the most perfect, right? But when you're hunting an animal of that sort of caliber, and you know that they're running, I'll tell you guys a little story about a blue wildebeest. Actually, on Dave's hunt, he hit this blue wildebeest square in the gearbox, but it only penetrated one lung, and full mobility of that animal, and we chased it for 2 days. That's how intense these species are. The very next bow hunt I had, when they mentioned they wanted blue wildebeest, my tactic going into that hunt was shoot as far forward as you possibly can so you can break the shoulder blades. I want to break the shoulder blades and break that animal so that it doesn't have the opportunity to go. Because unfortunately, if you do get an opportunity on a second shot, it's either going to be a very far distance shot on a blue, or you're going to have to restalk that animal again, putting a lot of time and effort into it, when I'm not a big fan of any animal suffering. So you would have to finish it off with a rifle, pretty much like what we did with Dave's hunt, where we chased down for 2 days. The blood started getting hard, so there was not a lot of blood to track. We kind of had to just keep putting boys into the bush and bumping this specific animal. And your ethics start getting questioned as a professional hunter, because it's something I don't like. I don't like chasing animals for 2 days, or especially not wounded animals in any given scenario. So my tactic was to break the shoulder blades, and crucially after that, hopefully it touched some of the main organs in the rib cage, and therefore harvest that animal ethically. And pretty much like clockwork, the shot was a little bit low, but it did manage to break bone, and it hit both lungs. That blue wildebeest didn't run 20 yards, and that was incredible for me, because I saw the difference of shot placement by 2 or 3 inches, and that's key. That's, those are sort of things that you're going to have to learn, and it boils down to confidence, right? How confident are you in your shot placement? How confident are you in your equipment? At the moment, I've partnered with Magnum Archery, and I can tell you with confidence, this past weekend, there's nothing better going into a hunt with all the confidence in the world in your equipment. It's incredible. It's like this. When I played professional sport, when I played rugby, you always knew that when your second game on a specific team, if you had dominated that guy in the scrum a couple of games before, you always went in there with a puffed up chest, and you're like, yeah, no, this is the one, I'm going to drill him again. And that first scrum comes and you smoke him into the ground and you rub his head in there. And that's kind of what you feel like with good equipment. You kind of get this absolute jitter in your step. I mean, I knew, the rat got the best of me, but we'll get into that. I definitely want to tell my story to those of you that haven't watched it on my YouTube channel yet. It's a story worth telling for many, many decades. But getting back to equipment, partner with the right guys, go along and speak to the guys. If you guys are coming out to South Africa and Joburg is one of your first stops, and if you've got a layover, definitely head along to Magnum Archery. Go and chat to Seppi and speak about what you guys are planning to do by coming out here. Because Seppi put me up on a setup with my PSE 375. It's an absolutely no-brainer, and I'm gonna see him next week at Huntex, and I'm pretty excited about that, because we're gonna go through everything again. I want him to dial me in so perfectly that I don't only have all the confidence in the world in just my gear, but in my personal ability as well, and that comes with a lot of experience. So make sure that you've got the correct poundage bow, make sure you got the correct setup, you've got the correct gear, because that makes the difference. And then go back and do the homework. Select your package before you come out here. Make sure that you are fully aware with your outfitter. And a lot of the times, and here's a tip I've learned, don't purchase packages. Be upfront with your outfitter and say to him, guys, listen, I'm coming out for a bow hunt. I'm happy to pay the day fee, and then on any opportunity I get out there, be open to that. The minute you buy a package, I don't know how every outfitter in the industry works. A lot of them that I've done deals with, or that I've seen do deals with bow hunters, is that they make you stick to your package. And when you're out in the field, opportunity on a lot of other animals might come up, and that is key. Because if you're just paying your day fee and you say to your outfitter, look, whatever opportunities, whatever good opportunities I get on the animals out there, I am going to be taking. You've got your trophy price list, you keep it in your pocket, and you make those calls when you're out in the bush. That is important, because if you are stuck to a package, to finish it in 7 to 10 days is always a stretch. And I'm not saying all the time. Some safaris you might get there and it works out perfectly fine. But most of the time, opportunities on other species come up, and you have got to be open to taking those animals. A lot of the other things, and going back to the gear story, is walk and stalk. What are you guys looking at? Look, from a blind, it's a completely different kettle of fish. You can pretty much wear whatever you are. Just make sure your surroundings are dark, you got good camouflage and all that sort of stuff in your blind. When you're walking and stalking, make sure you got good footwear. I'm using currently the Bill Morgan Fellies. It's a traditional feldskun that is made by a company in Pretoria, Bill Morgan. Incredible shoe, soft underground. I get to feel my steps when I walk, which has been key for me, especially being a bigger guy. It's always nice to feel your underfoot before you take that next step. And something I haven't really thought about in my whole hunting career, I had a pair of pants that had them in, and I never, I kind of took them for granted. But knee pads, jeez, I was on my hands and knees this weekend, and I look back, I was driving home and I was like, looked down at myself. I was like, yeah, my hands are fine. That's something you've always just dealt with. I mean, from when you're stalking, grabbing branches or whatever, you kind of always accustomed to your hands being a little bit beat up. But your knees, geez, I was sitting in the bath that night, and I kind of do like this Epsom salt baths after a hunt just to kind of like relax me, and I call it a cleansing process. But I'm sitting in there, my knees are burning, and I'm just like, geez, I didn't realize how much strain my body actually took on like walking on all fours and crawling around, ducking. And I mean, like I said, if you guys have seen the YouTube video, you would know that it was intense conditions, So knee pads, definitely head along to your local construction site or construction shop and get yourself a good set of knee pads. I personally don't like wearing long pants. However, the Trees and Leafy suit is so lightweight. It's a beautiful suit. I use the early season. I also use the late season. It's nice and lightweight. It breathes well. It definitely works, and it's robust. It's durable out there as well. With our thorn trees, those devil-like thorn trees, it actually holds up pretty nicely. So, yeah, I use that, and then just good camouflage. I have found in the past, Treason is probably by far streaks ahead of anyone as far as camouflage is concerned in South Africa. A lot of the guys are using Kuyu and all these other brands. I think it's more just for the look around camp type thing. But as far as physical ability in the bush and premium quality, Treason is by far leaps and bounds ahead of anyone else. And I'm not just saying that because I endorse the product. I'm saying that because it really, really works. Those of you that have followed the podcast for some time now know that I'm not going to be bullshitting anyone. I want you guys to come out and have a very, very successful hunt. And having trees in part of your gear bag is probably one of the most important things. Other than that, good rangefinder, which is a no-brainer. Those of you that have been bow hunting for some time now, a good rangefinder. Something I did pick up on the rangefinder this weekend was the laser points. The smaller the dot, the more accurate it is. And for some reason, however, I have got the Vortex Razor. It's been working exceptionally well for me. Just in the darker areas, it didn't pick up as nicely with the lighter back contrast. It kind of got a little bit confused in certain parts, but it got the job done. So yeah, look towards something like that. I know Rusty, the mate of mine that I hunted the fallow deer with this weekend, he had the 6 hour, which was also pretty much the same thing. And then of course I loved my Vortex HD Fury binoculars, which I use all the time, and they're pretty accurate. They're just heavy and luggy to carry around. Get yourself a good bino harness to protect them when you're crawling through these tough conditions. But yeah, what an incredible experience. So those of you that have asked the questions about what you need to bring, I hope I've answered a lot of that. Good gear bags, and just make sure that you guys are constantly prepared. Ending off on gear, I like to shoot a much heavier arrow. At the moment I'm using the grizzly sticks. I have got a couple of them here somewhere. I'm using the grizzly sticks at the moment. They are wonderful, wonderful fixed broadhead 2-blade. These are the Ashby 350s that I didn't use. Yes, I used these this weekend, which were incredible, with about a 2.5 inch cut diameter. Really was, that fallow deer did even run 10 yards, 20 yards, and he was down. So make sure, I personally like fixed blades. And the reason for that is that when you're out in the bush, and I've seen it happen twice now. It actually happened to me back in COVID with a mate of mine when I was on a darker hunt. Well, we were hunting pretty much anything, but a darker came in front of me, and as I swung my bow around, the longest of grass points that you can ever imagine hooked on that mechanical blade, and it unfolded it. I didn't realize it, but when I drew back on my bow and I released, I saw it came out pretty skew, and ultimately the darker string jumped me and ran off. But I was just like, that. And when I looked at the footage back, I realized that I clipped this grass twig that hung over like that. So I've seen these mechanical blades kind of fail before they really get to do their job. A couple of guys, the mechanical blade actually failed in the air. We called him Rocky. I can't remember what his name was, but he was a crossbow hunter, and we were sitting in the blind the one day, and the eland were coming in, and he was a much older gentleman, so walking and stalking was near impossible. So we had them over there were oranges that were there as a feed pile during the drought period, but also on the salt licks and stuff. So the animals were coming in, and we were sitting nice and quietly, and we were literally just sitting there, and he had the crossbow on the sticks, and all we heard was this like a snapping of a string, like if you take nylon cord and you just pull it tight and it snaps, that like instant clapping. And it didn't disturb the animals, but we were like, what's that? And we looked around, couldn't find anything. And he pointed to the front of his crossbow, and this arrow, there was a little elastic band that held these mechanical heads together. And then obviously when it hits the animal, it expands. But that little elastic band actually snapped for some reason, whether it was fatigue or age or whatever it may be. And yeah, this mechanical broadhead had opened up already and kind of like was being useless. So now those of you that know a crossbow, we had to pull it off, and with his we couldn't just unclip the arrow and insert a new one while it was drawn back. We had to actually undraw the arrow with this special tool, with the crossbow with a special tool. I don't know how these old things work. He did it, and yeah, that kind of took away from everything. So just make sure that you guys have got a good broadhead. Bring a sharpener with as well, so that if you do utilize a lot of arrows, that way you don't have to be bringing containers full of arrows, because you can just actually utilize your sharpener and just sharpen your arrows. Because a lot of the bow hunting I've done with some good mates of mine, they've always said there's nothing worse, there's nothing more unethical than a blunt broadhead, which is 100% true, and something I've really made a note of and made sure that I carry that through. So yeah, that's basically it, guys. Bring your GoPros, bring all the extras that you can. Make sure you shoot with them on your bow before time, because one thing I realized is the bow actually starts getting a little bit heavy, with all these gadgets and stuff on. I landed up not using hardly any of it. I had Tacticams and I had GoPros and I had all these sort of things. I hardly used any of it. Fortunately, we had the camera footage, which was epic. So I'm pretty stoked about that. But yeah, make sure you practice with that on. Make sure that you're comfortable, because that's the most important thing. And like I said, don't close the door on maybe jumping ship to rifle halfway through the safari, because that's just, we want you guys to come out here and have a good time. And that's the most important thing. If you want to just stick to bow and never shoot an animal, you've spent all this money getting over here, and you might have blown opportunities for the next 10 days, So make sure that you mentally prepare yourself for that. That's probably one of the most important things. And yeah, guys, before we close off, just to fill you in on, we'll talk a little bit about what happened this weekend, because I'm so excited about it. I know I did chat a little bit about it, or a lot about it on the video. But man, what an experience. So we head out to Cradock, other side Cradock from Queenstown side. On a good mate of mine, Rusty. Rusty's been in the industry for some time now. When I started professional hunting, he was there on the farm. We were hunting together, and I always just kind of looked up to him. I really admired his workload, his ethics when it came to hunting, and he wasn't afraid to share that. If he saw something wasn't right, he would call people out on it and say, guys, listen, this is not how it's done, this is the right way. If you want to carry on doing it the wrong way, well, by all means. And that's what I always enjoyed about him. And a lot of times throughout my career, I've always looked up to him in those certain scenarios, and I've kind of tried to base a lot of my decisions, and I've always tried to be open to learning a lot of things like that. So yeah, fortunately he came around. I gave him a call. He's had this spot for fallow deer. I've always heard, he's always spoken about it, but I never realized the extent and the concentration that place had of fallow deer stags. It was insane. That one bromplek that we call them, these rutting grounds that we crawled up onto. If you guys saw the videos, had at least 20 to 30 stags. Not all of them massive trophies, but young stags, old stags, satellite stags that were just, useless, lying around, doing nothing. And it was wild, absolutely insane. I've never seen a concentration of fallow deer as tight as that. And then 50 yards from that, there's another one with just as many stags. And 50 yards from that, there's another one. You just walk up this river and there's just fallow deer pretty much everywhere. And in amongst all this chaos, you've got these big pigs that are coming out and drinking water at the river and moving up north. And it's just, there's impala, there's just a hive of activity. And it's crazy that it only happens for 2 weeks of the whole year in this one spot. But what an unbelievable experience. The first day we get there, he's like, I'm taking you straight to this place and let's go and scout out. So we head there, we get there. There's a couple of stags that I like. I like the brown, the black one that Henri landed up shooting. And we had a couple of opportunities. We get to this one, and I'm like, Rusty, I really like that stag. It's an old stag, it's thick. On the right hand side, it kind of had like a crowned palm. It never had a flat palm. It had like a crown palm, and on the left hand side had like a flat palm, but you can see he was past his prime because they'd worn down in condition. So anyway, we get up, he ranges at 35. I've got my fast Eddie spot hog on. I turn it down to 35 yards, and I kind of, it's dark, and I've got a yellow ring, a luminous ring around my point. I draw back and I can't really see. I'm not making excuses for a cuck shot, for a shit shot. I'm not. But I couldn't really see shot placement. And with that, I wasn't really comfortable. Anyway, he kind of like got inquisitive with what he's just seen from the action of me drawing back. So he kind of took like 2 steps forward. And with that, I should have kind of readjusted, but I never did. And I don't know, for the life of me, thought that he was 40 yards now for some God knows reason. And I let the shot go because I was dead on him, and I felt good. It felt really, really good. And he ran off. I was pretty confident. It felt like I went a shot high. I was very, very confident on that. But Rusty kind of said he thinks it went under. However, we picked up my arrow the next day, because the next morning we went back to that place. Again, nothing but a bust hunt. And managed to find my arrow. And the way it penetrated the ground kind of said to me that, we were high. We shot way over. So head back in, day 2 for lunch. Made a couple of readjustments. And we head out. And this time I said, look, the buck fever's killed me, so it's drained me a little bit. Once we got onto those ratting pads, my knees would start shaking, and it would feel like I got pins and needles in my kneecaps. So anyway, I said, come, let's settle the nerves. Let's get an animal on the ground first. So we managed to stalk in nicely with all the chaos going. It makes stalking a breeze, right? So we're getting nice and close. Anu pulls off an incredible shot, drops her black fellow deer, the chocolate one. Beautiful animal, absolutely incredible, stunning. Drops it. The confidence is all high, and there's high fives all around. Everything, the dust settles, we take photos, we load it, and we're like, okay, we've got 3 hours left before dark. So we cross the river, we get to the other side, and we start hearing these grunts again. But now this is on a different pad that we haven't scouted out yet, so we haven't really seen the potential on this new pad. We get out there, and once again, there's just females and males, but it kind of seems like these guys had just kind of got into it because there was still a lot of horn bashing and, pissing everywhere. It stank, man. It was just this musky haze that if I could, you walked in there and you're like, yeah, this is fellow deer piss. Anyway, so just by chance we spot these 2 stags, and they are smashing each other. Now the one stag is he's much older. He's kind of like, so a fellow deer stag, what I've learned in the years is that from like 4 to 7 is their prime. 4 still maybe a little bit young, but from 5, 6, 7, that's their prime. That's where you're going to get those big flat palms, this big brute of a beast. From 7 onwards, they're no good. They lose their potential to mate. Their success rate is terrible. So those are the ones I want. I want the guys that are deteriorating. They get dehydrated. I mean, in some of the photos you can see the eye sockets are so deep in their skull because they are so dehydrated that these guys they're in it until the last minute. So anyway, so we see this guy and he's a brute. He's got mass. He's got, like I said, the palms aren't flat, but you can see he's just this old, gnarly looking stag, and he's trying to smash this young buck off, and he does. He gets the better of him and he smashes him into the ground. And on the video you can, if you pay careful attention, the first stag that we bump, he's just got like a bit of tuft of dirt all over his nose and stuff of that older male just drilling him into the ground. Anyway, so Rusty's holding the rangefinder and he's ranging for me all the time, because we know that's one thing I've really appreciated. He's like, like he didn't want me to do this all alone. And I was so grateful for that because I learned so much from him. He's an incredible hunter. So I wanted to take as much as I possibly can away from this weekend that I could. So anyway, he's walking in front and we kind of realize that these stags now, they've smashed each other and they've made their way into range of us. And if you watch the video, you can see Rusty kind of ranges to the opening, and I watch him range, and I knew, okay, this is the time they're going to be coming in here, and there's a shot there. But he never, if you watch, he never really read me the range. So I kind of anticipated 20 yards, dialed my fast Eddie down to 20, and Rusty kind of snuck away to the side. I managed to get to full draw. The first stag came, and he bumped us. He saw us instantly, and he just shot off. And the older male, he was like, well, what the hell's going on? Yeah, so he crawls out in, and I just Rusty makes like a little doe squeak, and on that I drill him square, and the perfect shot. It disintegrated his heart, and we ranged it a little bit later, and I think Rusty said 13 yards. I think it might have been more towards the 17, 20 yard range. But man, what an experience. What an experience. Everything just happened so quickly and so perfect timing that I never really got the chance to get the buck fever. But straight after that shot, my knees kind of like get to jelly. I turn to Henry. I'm like, oh, geez. And I look over. Rusty's so excited. High fives all around, and I'm like, I need to regather a little bit. But we did. We got the job done. It was an incredible experience. One, I will forever be grateful for. Two, it's definitely one of the highlights of my career. And I got to share it with a lot of special people. And that's what matters, And if I look back at it and I see the animals we took, I'm extremely proud of the conservation efforts we put in, because those stags are conservation stories. And with what we just pulled off, if we can continue doing that, those species in that area will thrive for decades and generations. And I'm very, very proud of what we accomplished. Not only do I get to put meat in the freezer now, I've got 2 beautiful stags on my wall. The conservation one, the efforts to protect those animals and their species is special. I look back and I'm very, very proud with what we accomplished. And although it's an alien species, it's played such a significant role in our South African wildlife history. So it was very, very unique to take. And I'm pretty pumped that I got to share that. I really am. I'm really excited that I got to share that with you guys. And if you haven't yet, I would appreciate it if you head along and check out that YouTube episode. It was it was next level. It really, really was. Yeah, I'm not the best editor. I'm not, or any of that means. I'm just feeling very, very grateful that I got to share that with you guys. So yeah. Well, ladies and gents, just to fill everyone in, I will be at Huntex on the 26th of April. So if you are in the area, pop around, come say how's it, man. Jeez, if you guys see me walking around for a little bbit in the morning, I know I've got a couple of things to do. However, if you see me walking around, just come say how's it. Yeah, I love chatting to guys about the industry. I love chatting to guys about hunting. I'm very, very passionate about it. So just come say hi. And yeah, that's a wrap for me. Once again, if you are, happy hunting. Until then, stay safe, stay blessed, stay humble. We'll catch up with you guys soon. Cheers.